The first thing you have to do when trying to get Mojo into your workflow at your TV station is to convince yourself that it's the best way to go. Because if you yourself are not convinced that it is the best workflow for you, then it's very hard to convince anybody else. So first, really invest some time in getting to know your phone, getting to know all the gear that comes with it, getting to know the apps, and really ask anyone you know who's already using it how Mojo works best for them. Signal breaking up. Okay, that's not good. Am I still live? I hope so. If you are convinced and if you got your workflow going, then go to the next level, which is convincing your boss, because in the end he's paying your bill probably, so you want him on board. And the way to convince him is really to show what you can do. So really show how it works and what's the end product. Because probably there will be some questions about, is it really good enough quality for on TV? Is it good enough quality for on the radio? So make sure that before you go to your boss that you have something that you're happy with and that you can show them. Because in the end they want good quality, and if you can also show them that it's probably cheaper, that will also help in convincing your boss to go for the Mojo workflow. Show them that it's cheap, but not that it's too cheap, because you still need your professional gear to come with your Mojo workflow. If you're interested in what gear to use, watch Glenn's live session of last week where he's shown a lot of gear. He has everything you could buy for Mojo probably, so I'm not going to get into gear anymore. Enough of that. But now I lost track of what I was going to say because of the connection pop-up that comes into the screen. When you convince your boss, don't tell him it's too cheap. Tell him that you still need to invest something. But if you can convince him to go for Mojo, then the next step will be to convince your technicians that it works. Because probably they will tell you that you cannot record broadcast material with an Android phone or on an iPhone. From my experience, I started with social, especially YouTube. Yes, you're right. Starting with social is, of course, a good way of convincing A, yourself, and B, your boss, that it can be done. But if you're in a traditional broadcast, they will want to see some results on TV and radio as well. So try that if you're comfortable with it. To convince your technicians, you will also need to have something to show them, some quality stuff. You need to show them online what other people do, because they probably won't believe if it's just you saying it. And also show them the gear that is available. From my experience, a lot of people in the tech business who have been there for a couple of years will probably be set in their ways of how they make TV, how they make radio. And they will probably tell you that you cannot get a good quality microphone for your phone, which is not true. And that you cannot get a good quality light for with your phone, which is also not true. So make sure you have some ammunition, as you will, to convince those technicians and really show them that it is possible with the technical things that are on the market right now. And if you really can show them that you have 4K video, which is better than most ENG cameras, traditional cameras, and that you have Sennheiser microphones and Shure microphones and Rode microphones, that will be easier to get them on board, because you need to get them on board, the technicians, because in the end they will probably help you in getting to the next step, which is convincing your colleagues to go and use it, which proved more difficult for me than I thought, because a lot of people in the news business, in the broadcast business, are also very set in their ways. Even if they're young, they want the big cameras, they want the professional radio microphones. So again, you need the technicians for convincing your colleagues, and again you need to show them what other people are doing, because they probably won't just listen to what you're saying. But if you're showing them what the BBC is doing, or what ABC News is doing, or Sky, or whatever, one of the bigger companies around, if they see that they are using Mojo, they will probably also go for it. In my case, I was just a radio journalist and VJ that was saying to them, hey, you can also use your phone, and they didn't really feel much for that. Yes, convincing colleagues is politically difficult, you are totally right, but if you show them how it makes their life easier, which really is what Mojo does, then you probably will convince them. If you can show them that they can edit their story in the field and spend more time with their story if they do it like that, and if they don't have to drive back to have to move because there's a truck coming, and they don't have to go back to their stations to edit, and just well, go for a local bar and start editing there. That really helps. I keep losing my connection, so please, if you have some questions, ask them now, because I'm afraid I will lose my connection again. I'm actually not sure how many people are watching now, because I cannot see my screen properly. But if you have some questions, please ask them now. I had a whole story planned where I would show you around at my TV station and show you how Mojo is now a full part of the workflow. But because of bad connection, I cannot do it inside for some reason. So that's why I'm now standing in the parking lot, holding my phone, my Android phone, whilst I was planning to do this on my iPhone. But that's part of the Mojo way of doing it. If it doesn't work the way you had it planned, then you do it some other way, which is a very important lesson to learn. How are you using LumaFusion? Well, actually, I'm using LumaFusion for every broadcast TV piece I do, and every online video I do. I do my editing on my phone, and I try to convince my colleagues to do the same, because it is the quickest way of getting video online and getting video ready for broadcast. And I also try to convince them to use Ferrite for broadcast radio, because that means they can edit in the field and send it in from the field, and they don't have to travel back to the offices to get it on radio or on TV, which is a very big bonus for me, because if you can do all of that in the field, you can spend more time with your story, which is for me one of the biggest benefits of Mojo. And for those of my colleagues who have already been convinced, they say the same thing. Being able to stick with the story is a very big bonus. The first thing I would like to say is, whether it is iOS or Android is not that much of a difference anymore. Android is growing, and it's getting better and better. There are things being done on Android that are very hopeful. But for now, in my newsroom, Android seems to work better, Ruma. Second question, what is the best way to receive footage from the field without compromising on quality, especially if it has to connect to our CMS? We're a print newsroom. The best way to receive footage from the field is first of all to have a proper connection that doesn't pop up every now and then saying you have a bad connection, but apparently the connection is good. The best way to send it in from the field and keep that quality is using FTP or WeTransfer. I've been at some companies that wanted to use things like WhatsApp to send it in from the field, but WhatsApp will really downscale your video and downscale anything you send in, including pictures, audio or whatever. So really, if you want to send in from the field, use an FTP client. There are lots of apps on both the Android market and the iOS market that give you a very good FTP connection. So that's the best way to send in your material. But make sure that your CMS works with FTP, because that sometimes is a problem. Any more questions? It's so odd. It still keeps saying that I have a poor connection, but I think we're still perfectly fine, aren't we? Not sure audio-wise. I'm just using my hand as a shield for the wind, because it's rather windy here. WeTransfer is good. I can't remember the limit though. There is a limit if you use the free version of WeTransfer, which is 2 gigabytes, which in general should be enough unless you make a very long story. So be aware of the 2 gigabyte limit if you use WeTransfer. But if you need to send in bigger stuff, then you can just upgrade WeTransfer to the paid version, and then I think you can send in to about 100 gigabytes, which is always enough. So any more questions for now? We've lost a lot of time in the beginning of this broadcast because of a bad internet connection. But I think that's no longer the case. I can even walk around and still keep the internet connection, so that's good. A quick wrap up of what I said during this live is that when you want to get a Mojo workflow going into your newsroom, first thing you have to do is convince yourself and really get familiar with how the Mojo workflow works. So what apps, what gear, and really get a feel for how your phone works. So then get some quality results, so shoot some video, edit it together, feel really comfortable with it, feel happy with it, and then go to your boss, show them what you can do, show them the result of what you made, and try and convince him with that quality result that you made. Show them that it might be even a way to save some money, not a lot, but some, because you still need the quality gear to help you with getting the quality results, so that needs some investment. Next step is convincing your technicians, because you need them in the end to really get the Mojo workflow going. Convince them by showing them what other people do, not just you. Convince them by showing what gear is available, and then move on to phase 4, which might be even the most difficult one, which is convincing your colleagues to go and use it, because that means for them they need to say goodbye to their pro cameras and maybe their big laptops and everything, and they just get a phone and need to do their work with that. And some people find that a bit intimidating. But if you show them how much easier it makes their lives, they will probably go for it. And well, for me, I'm still in that last phase, and we're really implementing it. In the end, we try to get a full Mojo workflow going, so that's where we are. That really sums up what I wanted to tell you right now. If you have any more questions, feel free to ask them via the Thomson Foundation, via the Journalism Now platform, or on Twitter, where you can also reach out to me. So thanks again, and have a nice day.